All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Thank you all. Such a pleasure to be with you. It's our Tuesday show, which brings in David Cay Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner in hour 2. Kim is here. Yes,
how are you?
Kim, we were worried about. She was MIA for a few minutes today. She's usually incredibly punctual, but today she was very late. She tells us that she's very late because she was rescuing her son from the surf again. I mean, it's amazing. No. Another brush with death. That kid just cannot stay out of the surf, and his mom has to jump in and rescue him all the time. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, Kim is here.
Kim, how are you?
And Tony is here. It's a Tony day.
Almost said it. I
What's
heard
that?
the beginning. That sounded like an 8 there at first.
Anyway, it is great to have my Tony with me and my Kim with me and all of you here as well. Quite a lot to do. I mean, you know, it's end times, everybody, and why wouldn't I want to spend end times with my people? Yeah, loving you. We will break down a bit of what's happening with our Mad King president and where this nation is headed and the rest of the world, and we'll do it right away. I also will mention that Tony brought to my attention the update on Mark's Madness, which continues, and Mark's Madness brought together a one really close race yesterday and then one walkover race yesterday. So yesterday, again, this is just yesterday, Wild Idea and Love It When You're Angry took on each other. The Wild Idea, it's a wild idea,
but it just might work.
And Love It When You're Angry.
I love it when you're angry.
Well, it was a walkover. Wild Idea moves on to the next round. These various rounds pit different drops from our show against each other, and you just don't get it. An itty bitty bit of weed. Is that for today, Tony? Or is that
This is yesterday's.
That was yesterday. Okay,
This
you
is the
just don't
results
get
from
it.
You just
Don't get it.
do you? You don't.
And that went up against itty bitty bit of weed.
It's an itty bitty bit of weed.
And I thought the itty bitty bit of weed was going to move on, but it did not. It is just don't get it. Did you have that, Kim? Just don't get it, moving on?
I think I did itty bitty bit of weed.
Yeah, I think that was the call I made too. People like their.
It's an itty bitty bit of weed.
I just assumed it would, but no, you just don't get
You
it.
just don't get
Is
it.
moving
Don't
on
underestimate
to.
Dr. Evil.
Yeah, exactly, Dr. Evil. So today,
Now, Mark's Madness.
yes, we move on with two others. Let's make it happen. You'll vote until midnight Pacific time for either
You do not know what you are talking about.
or
Oh, girl, baby girl, don't even play.
again, you'll vote for
You
either
do not know what you are talking about.
or you'll vote for.
Oh, girl, baby girl, don't even play.
It's a classic matchup. Again, till midnight tonight. Again, if you're on the East Coast, it's 3 a.m. you have to vote. Vote early, vote every hour, vote often. I don't know if you can vote multiple times. I'm guessing you can. The voting system is probably pretty loose.
It's probably not very. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking
right.
too.
I'm not depending, but you know, after
Hey,
a while,
good for you for
if voted
effort if you do it.
if you voted a few times, yeah, exactly. If you're that vested into it, then good for you. Look, there's a lot going on, and we'll review a little bit of what happened after we went off the air yesterday, and then a little bit of what is happening now as the entire economy of the U.S. and the world is changing. Although it's interesting because there is a well, let's get into it. So
The Mark Thompson Show.
there's all sorts of stuff happening. I almost don't know whether to start with the economy or whether to start with some of the legal judgments. I'm going to put the legal judgments. The Supreme Court, as you know, on a jurisdictional basis, at least in the interim, made an emergency decision, John Roberts did, that allows the Trump administration more time to let that kid frankly die, I think, in the Venezuelan prison, among those Venezuelans in the El Salvadoran prison. I want to park some of that to the second hour because David Cay Johnston is such an expert on the law, and he can speak to this and some of the other stuff that's happening with SCOTUS. But just to mention, it is on our radar, and we will get to it. By the way, Jaguar and Land Rover, they are now no longer shipping to the United States. They are trying to figure out in this post-tariff world what they're going to do, and it's one more sign that the economy is going to radically change, not just the economy of the U.S., but the economy of the world. Although it's interesting, I'm going to play me the Krugman stuff, if you will, Tony. No, not that one, the second one that I sent you this morning. Paul Krugman, who's an award-winning economist and columnist for the New York Times, Princeton professor, he was talking about what's happening now. And I'm going to play you a little bit of a longer cut. That's one of the things I like about this show. We can let things go a little bit more than we could have on commercial radio where this show began. And the reason I like this extended cut is that Krugman actually addresses some of the fallacies, I'll say, some of the falsehoods, some of the rationales that have accompanied this absolutely absurdist tariff policy. You know, there's this reverse engineering where MAGA and a lot of those who are the supplicants to Trump, they are the Trump loyalists, they have to explain and defend what the Mad King is doing. And in that, you hear all of these rationales for, well, he's resetting the world economy, which it needed to reset. He's resetting it with America in charge. And of course, America already has the leading economy in the world. You don't need a reset on that. I mean, you inherited the best economy in the world, and you are setting it ablaze. So I like that Krugman addresses some of that in this longer cut. Let's give a listen.
This is really, really bad. I mean, you want to say this is, we're talking about, if, you know, assuming the Rose Garden, anything like what Trump announced in the Rose Garden is actually going to be where we land, we're talking about tariffs that are significantly higher than Smoot-Hawley, and of course, starting from very low. So this huge jump in tariff rates with a U.S. economy that's 3 times as open to international trade as it was in 1930. So this makes Smoot-Hawley look like a rounding error. And it's, so that's really bad. And it's also, it's highly uncertain. Never had a situation where really you have no idea, but within, you know, like 20 points where the average tariff rate is going to be a few months from now. So this creates an impossible environment for business. It's hard to imagine a worse trade policy than what we're getting.
In the cacophony, Paul Krugman, we have nations acting. Last night at 9:15, I picked up my phone and there was China acting. China just says no. Trump lives on negotiation. Folks, Bloomberg's Tim O'Brien owns the high ground on this. He lives on negotiation. John Bolton, writing in the Telegraph, says he lives on negotiation. If the Chinese don't negotiate, what happens to Paul Krugman's trade economy?
Oh, I mean, starting point here again is that negotiate about what? Now, China, you could conceivably have some. China is not a free trade economy, and you know they might be able to make some concessions, but they ain't gonna. Their back is up, and they have national pride, and their economy, by some measures, is as big as ours, so or bigger. So you don't want to. They're not for moving, and the other players. I mean, think about the Europeans. Europe had an average tariff of about 1.7% on U.S. goods. Has still about 1.7% on U.S. goods. What can they give? What concessions can they make? It's not as if Trump is asking them to do something. Is asking them to remedy some real sin. He's sort of made up a story about how they must be doing something wrong, but they aren't actually. And so they even if he wants concessions, they can't give them.
Professor, I think if we just step back a little bit, I think the basis of the Trump administration tariff policy is that they're trying to reorder the world economic order. Is there something fundamentally broken about the world economic order that disadvantages the U.S.?
Actually, no. I mean, when all is said and done, the U.S. runs a overall trade deficit, but that's mostly because the balance of payments always balances. If you attract inflows of foreign capital, then the math says that you have to have a trade deficit. I know mathematics has a progressive bias, but still, that's what the math says. And the U.S. is an attractive place to invest, or was until now. So the idea that there's something fundamentally wrong just doesn't make sense. And it's worse. I mean, that Trump and his people think not only that the U.S. shouldn't run a trade deficit, but that we shouldn't run a trade deficit with any country, that everything should be bilateral balanced trade, which is just crazy. I mean, if you think about people, if you work for somebody else, well, you run a surplus with that person because they pay you, and you probably don't spend much of your income on their products. Right. On the other hand, you run a bilateral deficit with your supermarket because you buy from them and they don't buy stuff from you. And so, the same applies to countries. So it's just crazy. And I don't know. I think all of this stuff about remaking the international order is window dressing. The fundamental thing is Trump wants tariffs, and then everything else is people trying to explain why, retconning explanations of why he wants tariffs.
Yeah, Jason Furman in the FT this morning really writing up this complete focus on getting tariffs in to go back to the 50s, the 30s, or maybe 1905. We welcome Paul Krugman, of course.
That's great. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for that. So in that longer cut, which I'm really glad that you could experience and take in, you could hear Krugman address the insanity of what we're dealing with economically, and then address the equal insanity that is assigned to explaining, sort of reordering the world economic balance, which doesn't need to be reordered. I mean, you took over the dominant economic party when you took over America, Donald Trump. Yeah. In the world of economics, just looking at the economics of the globe, you took over the head of the parade. You're doing fine. Don't touch anything might have been good advice. Instead, you have the insanity, and then I'm glad that they mentioned it at the end, but Trump is insistent on shoehorning in these tariffs, and they're not even calibrated or computed in any way that makes sense. It is utter lunacy. Now, what was the cut I sent you yesterday, Tony? I sent you a cut, I thought, with a trader who was kind of loose. Here it is. Yeah, this is in the middle of some of the madness from yesterday. Go ahead.
But now let's forget rumors. Now we have a fact. Donald Trump says he's going to increase by 50% the tariffs on China tomorrow because they've had the temerity to retaliate with the 34% tit for tat that they did. So you want a trade war? This is what it looks like. And you remember Scott Bessent's words, there doesn't have to be a recession. By the way, all the rest, Howard Lutnick's comments, the economic advisor's comments, Navarro's comments, that's all just hyperbole. That's all just basically, it's going to be great, it's going to be marvelous, it's going to be fantastic, it's going to be wonderful, it's going to boom, but this is the reality. And at some point, ladies and gentlemen, at some point, there is so much disruption that the market simply can't take it. And jobs go, investment stops, the recession happens.
So good times. Thank you for that. So those are the realities. I'm playing you cuts from leading economists, one of whom won the Nobel Prize. And that's Krugman, who you heard from. And I will take care of a little bit of extended business right now because this happened yesterday and I just saw it again in the chat. And so here you go. Mars, MAGA Mars, I want to talk to you for a moment. And you say, saying we have the greatest economy ever before is like saying Biden was fit and capable when he clearly wasn't. we did have the greatest economy in the world. We were the leading economy in the world, and you just heard multiple economists refer to that fact. That is the fact. I also think it's a fact that Biden was an older man, diminished. He was an absolute train wreck in that debate. So I think that is a reasonable point. But the fact that you've conflated the two, that you've put the two together in a comment, is just you trolling. Okay, so that's you saying we had the greatest economy ever before is like saying Biden was fit and capable when he clearly wasn't. Is you smearing what I had said and what multiple Pulitzer Prize winning and Nobel Prize winning economists, Krugman won the Pulitzer as well. So you're just wrong, but it's a chance for you to shit on Biden, which is what you did, which I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind you disparaging Biden particularly, but I think you have done it in a way that you're trying to suggest that the facts that are clearly in evidence aren't in evidence. And for that reason, I am red carding you, and I'm sick of your shit, and I want you off of this channel. Go hassle somebody else, go troll somebody else. You're not a supporter of this channel. You're not a Patreon supporter. You're not a PayPal supporter. You don't deserve the kind of airtime that we give you, and I'm done with you. And I don't want to see you on here again. I'm through, okay? Kim, I want him red carded off of the channel, okay? I work really hard on this channel. We are doing all we can to sustain ourselves right now, and I won't be trolled repeatedly by a guy who really just wants to throw us off the scent. I'm through with it. All right. Thank you.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
I feel better. I do. I feel better. I am done. Hi, Mars, bye, Mars. We spent a little time on him, but I hopefully, I know we got off on that little thing, but I am going to hope that you got a lot out of that segment with the economists, because I felt they were really, really strong. Yeah, love it when Mark is angry. I'm sorry, man. I just cannot, I'm underslept and overworked, and it's a struggle every day, and I don't need to come into this scene and be and get that. And so I'm sorry if Mars has got personal issues or whatever. Don't bring them here. So I mentioned that the car makers have already reduced imports, and there are factories that are idling. A few car makers have closed factories, laid off workers, or shifted production in response to the auto tariffs that took effect this past week. The auto tariffs, of course, started last Thursday. Jaguar Land Rover, based in Britain, say that they'll temporarily stop exporting luxury cars to the U.S. Stellantis idled factories in Canada and Mexico. They make Chrysler and Jeep. They laid off 900 U.S. workers who supply those factories with engines and other parts. And the luxury division of Volkswagen also pausing exports of cars to the U.S. from Europe, telling dealers to sell whatever they still have on their lots. If other car makers make similar moves, the economic impact could be huge, could lead to higher car prices, widespread layoffs. The tariffs on cars are among the first of several industry-specific levies that Trump has offered and has indicated he will follow through on. And these trade policies, as you know, have been described as intractable and solid, and then they're described as negotiable, and we'll have to wait and see. So the new tariff applied to imported cars could increase their cost by thousands of dollars and sharply reduce demand for foreign cars, right? So if you've got Jaguar, Land Rover, Audi, the tariffs could amount to more than $20,000 per car. So you're going to see a lot fewer of these cars leaving those luxury car lots. And the longer-term impact of these 25% tariffs, we don't know. I mean, a lot of automakers are trying to figure out what's going to happen, how to avoid increasing prices. Car makers have never had to deal with this kind of high tariff imposition before with such little notice, and they don't really have an idea of what Trump will do in the weeks to come. But that's the latest, and foreign car companies being hard hit. Right-wingers are suing Trump over tariffs. I mentioned that Charles Koch was among those who were launching a lawsuit. Leonard Leo and Charles Koch, these are two evil people politically. I mean, truly having undermined the justice system with the Federalist Society list of Supreme Court justices and also federal justices, appointees to the bench. And they come out of this world of Leonard Leo, as you know. And his Federalist Society got that $1 billion infusion from that donor who has vaulted the Federalist Society to a position of tremendous power. In Charles Koch, you know, all of the dark money that comes out of the Koch brothers world. It seeds everything from literally college programs and legislatures that are seeing the influx of Koch money and the effects on elections to high school programs. I mean, if you read Jane Mayer's Dark Money, she talks about the fact that the Koch money actually gets all the way down into the high schools. I mean, the seeds of dark money are in all of these places, and they have successfully reshaped America in many ways. So anyway, now they are mounting, Leonard Leo and Charles Koch, a legal challenge against Donald Trump and the tariffs. It's right-wing opposition that could be joined by others to this policy that has sent the international markets plummeting because of these tariffs. And the new Civil Liberties Alliance Fund filed this suit against Trump and the imposition of import tariffs on exports from China. They argue that these tariffs under the International Emergency Powers Act, which the president has invoked to justify the duties on all these countries, is unlawful. We've spoken of this ourselves. It probably is unlawful. I'm guessing the Supreme Court will kind of let him do it. The group's action, this from The Guardian, echoes support given by 4 Republican senators last week for a Democratic amendment calling for the reversal of 25% tariffs imposed on Canada. So, again, you're seeing the seeds of pushback in both GOP senators, admittedly only a handful, and some in the House on the GOP side, but now huge GOP luminaries. I mean, Leonard Leo literally is the guy who produces the list to Trump for his SCOTUS nominations. And I don't need to tell you, as again, who Charles Koch is and the power of the Koch legacy. So all of those things continue. And I think you're dealing with a situation that produces so much pain in the short term that it'll be interesting to see whether or not the GOP has the stomach for this to have it continue.
I was looking at my my daughter who's going to, hopefully go off to college in 2 years, and we have a college fund for her, and it lost bigly. So it's very scary when you think about the fact that she's going to need it sooner rather than later, and it's taking a big hit. So I can see why people don't have the stomach for it, because it's hard to watch that.
Yes, and that college fund is joined by so many retirement funds.
Yep.
I mean, people who are retirement age need the money now.
Yeah.
And the idea that somehow they just take a 20% haircut because this guy doesn't really quite understand economics. And then there are other questions, and I'm going to get into this with David Cay Johnston, about, well, is Trump self-dealing here? Is he deliberately tanking the markets such that his billionaire buddies can go in, scoop up these stocks? It'll also drive down real estate values. They can go in and scoop up real estate. Might this be a longer game as well? Or what I might suggest to you is that that's not the reason, but it is a corresponding result that can benefit Trump and his friends. I don't believe that Trump, look, I mean, it's anybody's guess, but I think Trump's got this tariff thing in his head because one day he was in school at Wharton and he actually showed up to class that day and he heard tariffs and it was explained, and then he didn't show up for the rest of the semester, and somehow that's in his head. I mean, this is, and I mean, I can play you economist after economist. This is so profoundly flawed as I mean, to call it flawed is polite. It is asinine. And to to see this pursued as economic policy in this haphazard, completely unprovoked way, and now he's turning it up all the way to 10, this really doesn't have anything but the craziness of Trump associated with it. But that doesn't mean that those who have a lot of money won't be able to benefit from it. As I say, when they swoop in and can get a lot of these equities, real estate, et cetera, at discounted prices because America's economy has been wrecked. So I'm going to talk more about this with David Cay Johnston, but I think that is a real concern as we move ahead and we see all the different ways in which various players position themselves vis-a-vis this policy. Vis-a-vis is a ding. Right. I was trying to avoid it, but then I said it. And as you know, this 50% tariff on imports from China, with this massive escalation of the already existing tariff on China, this could just really throw things into a total tailspin. We'll see what happens on that. The Chinese have a ton of leverage. They have a very powerful economy, and it is true that they have a connection to Trump that might even be back channel. I want to talk to David Cay Johnston about that, meaning the Chinese government can see in Trump, I think, maybe the corruption of Trump and that how he can be bought. And so there are ways into Trump policy that aren't through the front door, they're through the back door. And I'm not at all convinced that China won't take advantage of that. They are used to playing the edges, and I think the edges may be where they see Donald Trump very easily functioning to give them a break if they take care of him in the right ways. And the last thing I'll say on that is the crypto part of Trump. You know, he was all against crypto until he was all for crypto. That's the one way, and there's several ways, but that's the one way in which you can money Trump and money Trump interests without it being at all traceable. You could dump a ton of money into these meme coins and these other back channel ways in which Trump is now connected to crypto, and that money goes right into the administration, not the administration, into Trump himself. And in that way, you can take a corrupt man and buy him and then buy the policy you want. We will see. But don't forget, Trump loves Tesla. Yes, that is true. Thank you, MG. Trump does love Tesla. Who doesn't, really?
The Mark Thompson Show.
There goes Costco. Almost everything there is from China, says Vilma. The relationship economically between China and the U.S. is so solid that it astounds me that you would break it into a million pieces like this. We're their biggest customer, and they're our biggest supplier. I don't know why you'd want to change that unless you had a better plan. This isn't that. You can argue, and I think you can argue effectively, that economics of America changed and maybe changed for the worst. The NAFTA agreement, I mean, the offshoring of so many jobs, the offshoring of so many factories, I get it. It's a fact. You have such cheap labor in all of these different countries, in Asia, in India, in China, of course. In all of these different places, production has now really been ceded to those areas where there is such cheap labor. You're not going to get that back. You just aren't. That labor is not coming back to the U.S. I mean, how much do you want to pay for a sweater? I mean, if you are paying U.S. laborers their hourly wage, that sweater is going to cost 10x of what it costs when it comes from Vietnam. So the idea somehow that you can, simply by imposing these tariffs, onshore these jobs, I don't buy it. Not to mention the fact that you're really looking at automation taking over so many of these factory jobs. They just don't exist the way they used to. So this president, the Mad King, who was caught back in the 50s or maybe even earlier dates than that, he's thinking of factories that just don't exist anymore. He would, again, I don't know that you can get through to this guy because I think he's mostly on the golf course, and then when he comes in, he just sort of reflexively issues these executive orders, and before you know it, you're in serious economic decline. But to the extent he could actually get him to visit a factory and maybe see what's happening out there, he'd realize that legitimately it did take a hit. The industrial sector of America did take a hit when all of these jobs were offshored for so long. But that ship has sailed, sadly. So now we're a service economy, and we have great things associated with the digital economy, the financial service economy. I mean, America has leadership in these areas, but because it's not coming out of a factory, somehow Trump doesn't pay any attention to it. Well, this is where we are, but I'll talk to David Cay Johnston more about this, but this is sort of the state of the state at this moment. And Donald Trump was busy at the White House making new threats. Kim, where is that? The video of, you have video of
Donald Trump, yeah.
Donald Trump, I guess he was doing two things. He was welcoming the Dodgers, who had won the World Series.
He did that yesterday,
yeah. House, yeah.
He talked to Netanyahu, and then he thought, talk a little trade. Why not?
Yeah, right, exactly. Riff on trade. They love my trade set. Let me do a little chunk on trade. Hello, is this on? Hi, how are you guys? I'm Donald Trump. I'm the president, and I'm thinking about laying down another 50% on China if they bite back at us. Do we have any of that, Tony, or getting it, rallying it? No? Don't know where it is?
Sorry, I had a crash here. Sorry, let me get the
Okay, that's okay.
Let me tell you really quickly as to what you were talking about. Did you see that the Besant is saying that the fired federal workers would be a great fit for all these new factory jobs that you were just mentioning?
Oh my God.
Yeah, he says he knows what to do with the fired federal workers. They'll help fill these factory jobs created by the Trump tariffs. So you're saying that we have scientists and specialists and people with, that are highly educated doing research, medical research, all of these jobs, you want them to go work in a factory? Is that what? I don't know.
I as you know, I delight in watching Besant, who is the Treasury Secretary and does know better. Okay. I delight in watching him on the Sunday shows and addressing the media and somehow trying to put a smiley face on what is a horror show. And he knows it's a horror show. So that's just the latest, He couldn't even explain the tariffs or justify the tariffs in any way in interview after interview. And to hear him now with that spin, hey, the fired workers, they might like to work iPhones. We're going to have a whole iPhone factory soon. I mean, it's crazy. To get Trump to take economic reality seriously would mean him taking the needs of the country seriously, says commentator. Talk about a ship that has sailed. Yeah, I don't think the needs of the country are high on his list. Here is Trump at the White House earlier.
With China, as you know, against my statement, they put a 34% tariff on above what their ridiculous tariffs were already. And I said, if that tariff isn't removed by tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we're putting a 50% tariff on above the tariffs that we put on. So they've gone for years. They've become a rich country because of people, again, that were in the White House that allowed this to happen. Hundreds of billions of dollars a year they'd make on us on trade, and it shouldn't be that way. And I have a great relationship with President Xi. I hope it's going to stay that way. I have great respect for China, but they can't do this. We're going to have one shot at this, and no other president's going to do this, what I'm doing. And I'll tell you what, it's an honor to do it because we have been just destroyed.
There have been some
Yeah. Again, we've already addressed the China-America relationship from a trade standpoint, and it's just inexplicable that this guy would do this. But meantime,
China's calling it, by the way, this threat of a new tariff. It's Trump saying he's going to put another 50% tariff on top of their reciprocal retaliatory tariffs. China says this is a mistake on top of a mistake, and they say, we are warning you, do not do this.
They're right. I mean, I think that states it very well. I mean, it's a mistake on top of a mistake. Yeah. It is really true. And it's from a guy who doesn't understand it. And he's also surrounded now by people who are nothing but enablers. If you look at the Trump Billionaire Boys Club that is his cabinet, they're all just there. They're all sycophants. They're all kissing ass. They all just want to make sure that there is nothing that they do that could be perceived as in the least bit disloyal. So they're all enabling. And so when he has a meeting about economics, no one's pushing back. I mean, you have these guys who know better. And instead of pushing back, they go out there and sling this stuff on Fox News Channel. I mean, watching Howard Lutnick is nauseating. I mean, he must know better. And yet he goes out there and he's this avuncular guy with hey, everybody, let me tell you, it's going to be great. We're going to onshore the jobs. It's going to be great. There'll be some short-term pain, but it's all coming back. I mean, you have an entire globe that is now looking for ways to do business without America involved. I mean, it's that simple. And you have a total perversion of the trade and tariff system. It's ridiculous. Lutnick is Trump's court jester. Thank you. That's exactly right, Rich. Perfect way to say it. And then to watch Fox spin it, Fox News Channel. Uncle Russ is right. Fox is state media. It is true. And at some point, I think the pain will be so great that they may not be able to continue this. But brand new to Mark Thompson says, Kelly, and thank you, Kelly, for being here. Kelly Breedlove, cool last name, I might say. We're very much into names on this show. And welcome. There is your class act, Mark, a lottie beam of light here in small town Indiana. Shine on. Christina Garcia, what up, Christina? Thank you for a $5 super chat. We are a crowd-funded show, so we make a big deal out of people in the crowd that fund us. And Chaplain Fred among them also. Thank you, Chaplain Fred, for a $20 super chat. Good day, Mark and Kim. It is so nice to watch and listen to your show. Love it when you get upset, but keep your wits and with calmness. Please keep it up. You got a supporter here as long as you're on the air. That is so cool. Chaplain Fred. Wow. Really, really cool. Well, thank you, Indiana, for checking in, and thank you, Chaplain Fred, for checking in. We got a lot of great conversation ahead in the second hour. The Pulitzer Prize winner, David Cay Johnston, joins. He's a multiple best-selling author. He writes about Trump. He writes about taxes. He writes about economics. He writes about the law. All of those things are front burner to us, and so we'll make sure that we get to that. Sorry, I just missed what was up on screen. V. Richard, yeah, $10 super chat, thank you. Yep, 64 years old and stressed about if and when I can retire. I mean, I think that is a deserving anxiety right now, meaning your anxiety is deserving of credit, of being dignified with a serious conversation. I mean, if you are retiring and you're looking at what you've built up through savings through a lifetime, you have that savings in the market in some way. It may be in a money market fund, or it may be in any number of funds associated with the rise and fall of the American economy. And I think that's a legitimate anxiety you have about, hey, how much money can I live on? I've got to plan the rest of my life based on my savings. It's outrageous. I mean, this is it's outrageous, not because the American economy doesn't ebb and flow. It may, but a self-inflicted wound like this, where you tank your own economy, it's unforgivable, inexcusable, and grotesque. And people who are hardworking Americans, who he always talks about, Trump always talks about hardworking Americans. That's the big default that, you hear the GOP talking about, we're hardworking Americans and America's heartland and America, the United States of America, and the hardworking Americans. These are hardworking Americans. Everybody on this chat, that 64-year-old woman, she is a hardworking American who's put her money aside. And again, were this a naturally occurring event, it would be on some level forgivable. But it's not. It's a self-inflicted wound. And I don't want to say it will mortally wound the U.S., but it will gravely wound the U.S. And we don't really know where the bottom is and what's going to happen to these funds. It's deeply disturbing. So you're right to be anxious about it. Joe Fong, thank you for a $9.99 super sticker. Big shout out to you. Big shout out. Thank you. Appreciate that. And I'm sorry, what was it? What else did you have from Chaplain Fred? I work hospice care, he says, the $5 super chat. Thank you, Chaplain Fred. I work hospice care, and some of my veterans, excuse me, I have to cough.
Yeah, have been denied a hospice care because they have been denied veterans benefits. And Chaplain Fred writes, it's very upsetting. That is very upsetting. These are people that have given service to the United States, and look how we treat them.
The way in which the GOP particularly wraps itself in the flag, and Donald Trump wraps himself in the flag, and wraps himself in the military and veterans. Look what he wants to do for his birthday. We told you about this yesterday. He wants a 4-mile-long military procession from the Pentagon to the White House, I think, or to some location there in Washington. And that is all military. He loves the show of force. He loves his military. He loves referencing generals, and he loves referencing the military around him. But what does he do to veterans and veterans benefits? He guts them. He guts them. Look at what happened to the VA. Doge went after the VA. Doge went after the VA. They went after the same way they went after the EPA. It's outrageous. It really is. I mean, these are people who've made substantial sacrifices for this country as well in the form of public service. This is public service that, you know, you can argue most Americans should, I think, spend at least a couple of years doing some kind of public service. But these people who are involved in the military, who are veterans and depend on the Veterans Affairs Administration, they need the support of this nation. It's crazy. It really is crazy. And the last thing I'll just say on veterans, just because we're talking about it, is, I mean, you got a guy in Donald Trump who sought multiple deferments, fake health deferments, to get out of military service. Now, a lot of people are trying to get out of service to Vietnam. They enlisted and different things. I mean, people of Trump's vintage were sort of doing that kind of thing. But his dad and his wealth were able to facilitate the phoning up of this bone spur story. He can't even remember which foot had the bone spurs. And this guy got out of military service. So to me, it's ironic that he could wrap himself in the military, ask for this military procession from the Pentagon to the White House on his birthday, and it's more on brand that he would screw the veterans in the way that he has and in the way that Chaplain Fred was referring to it. So anything else in the way of comments that I have to...
a lot of people that are scared about their 401k.
Yeah. Heather Kennedy says, ugh, yeah, I am not looking at my 401k accounts right now. Right. Gordon says, Rev, I don't want to look at my 401k. My Apple stock is way, way down. Yeah. I mean, it is true that there will be, I think, there'll be a real reckoning in the markets, and then we'll have to see where the markets ultimately end up. I've always said, because people say, you know, get in the stock market over time, you'll always make money on the stock market. You'll always hear people say that because it's true. If you look at the American markets historically, that is true. But I've always said, well, it really depends when the music stops, doesn't it? When the music stops and you need the money, that's when it's important where the market is. If the music stops in 2008, you're screwed. I need the money now, and the market has tanked. If the market stops when COVID hits and you need the money at that moment, you need the money and you're screwed. And now we kind of find ourselves in that same place. If the music stops for you, meaning you need the money now at this time that you have the Mad King having put in these ridiculous tariffs for no reason at all, and he tanks both the U.S. economy and world economy in one sweep of the pen, well, then we're all screwed. Now, the one thing I would say that might be encouraging is I'd stay with it. The temperature of the water may change in the weeks and months to come, and it may change for the better. But for the moment, I agree. I share your anxiety. I share your panic. But generally speaking, when we're panicked, we don't make good decisions. So I would encourage you not to panic, pull out of the market, etc. I mean, look, I'm not an economist. I do the same reading that a lot of you do. I have the same conversations that many of you do. But I also, and many of you, I think, fall in this category too, I have decades of experience having made mistakes, right? So I know that I have panicked before. I've pulled my money out of the market before, and it was a mistake. The market did build back. So again, this may be, this is definitely a hit, but it may be a shorter hit than we fear, and there just really isn't a way to know right now, and I caution against any panic. But we all share the same anxiety. Could Trump's economically aggressive behavior potentially provoke China to attack? Asks Dude Desi 07 with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I think that China doesn't want a hot war, if that's what you mean, with the U.S. I mean, I suppose Taiwan would be the proxy war, kind of what Ukraine has been with Russia. I think in general, China doesn't want that. And we can ask David Cay Johnston about that in the when he comes through. But I would say that is not something that China wants. I do think in Trump, you have a guy who doesn't really do the arithmetic on anything. He likes the flex, as we've talked about on the show. He likes to make announcements, and he likes to do things that really rattle everybody's cage and dominate the news cycle. He likes being president in some dangerous ways, and it's the dangerous ways that worry me. So I understand everybody who voted for them. I used to listen to these guys talk about, oh, he's the peace candidate. He wants to end the war in Ukraine, and he wants to end the Middle Eastern conflict. And I mean, every candidate is the peace candidate. No candidate is the war candidate, all right? Well, you have in Trump is a guy who likes the flex. He used to ask about the nukes. We have all of these nukes. How come we don't use them at all? I mean, I think Trump is a dangerous guy from the standpoint of military confrontations and using the American military. Look at what he's already talked about with Canada and Greenland. I mean, the guy is, he comes in and his first hour, he's smack talking the allies and on some level speaking about going into Mexico or Canada for different reasons. Canada to become the 51st state, Mexico to attack the cartels. So he has all of this working, and I'd suggest to you that the danger is with Trump more than it is with China. So if you're worried about a hot war with China, I'd look right here at home. And again, I don't think Trump wants a hot war with China either, just to be clear. But I'm just saying when it comes to pulling the military trigger, I think Trump is far more likely to do it than she is. So that's where, just to answer your question, that's where we are. I'd like to, if I could, Kim, I'd love to get a news update from you. You've been watching so much of what's happening so far today. Then I have David Cay Johnston coming in minutes, and we'll talk to him about many of these issues. I promise I will get them into David Cay Johnston. And if you have anything specific you'd like to ask David Cay Johnston, please send it along to us. The whole thing with Iran, Dude Desi 07 says, thank you for the super chat. The whole thing with Iran seems to be concerning. There are those who have said that Bibi is goading Trump to invade Iran. Thank you for that, because I think that's far more likely than anything with China. I think Trump probably doesn't realize how tough Iran could be. You don't want to get into a war in Iran. Iran is an immense country, and I'd suggest that there is they've been diminished a lot. But I do think that Iran represents probably the next potential theater of military adventurism on the part of Trump. I'm sure Bibi Netanyahu, as he's called. I love how everybody calls him Bibi. That's his nickname. It's Benjamin Netanyahu, isn't it? And we all call him Bibi, like we're going to his birthday party. But I do think Netanyahu is pushing Trump that way. I don't know that Trump will have the stomach for it. It seems like a war you don't need. But on the other hand, again, I wouldn't count on Trump having great judgment. But I love that you mention Iran, because I do feel as though that's the more realistic potential for military adventurism on the part of the U.S. So smash the like button if you would. It's something in YouTube that's really important.
Smash
it helps us with the
iron rod.
Some algorithm. And we'll update Mark's Madness. We'll also have 2 more drops for you that will play on in Mark's Madness. David Cay Johnston joins in the next hour. So much to do. Thank you for being here. Mark Thompson Show.
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's true. It is something of a situation. Kim's News now.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, on the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Oh, the coffee's good. Take a little sip while we talk.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Stocks up and stocks down on Wall Street after the new tariffs announced by President Trump are just causing more volatility. It comes as Trump threatened to up duties against China by another 50% if the country doesn't get rid of retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. The president set a deadline of midnight tonight for China to remove those retaliatory tariffs. If not, there you go. We'll see. The Supreme Court is ruling in favor of the Trump administration regarding the firings of thousands of federal workers. The High Court ruling yesterday, the Trump administration, or ruling today rather, the Trump administration can proceed with the termination of 16,000 probationary employees. A lower court had ruled the workers be reinstated as legal challenges proceeded. The Supreme Court's rulings rescind that order. Speaking of court rulings, the Supreme Court is handing President Trump another big win in a 5-4 ruling yesterday. The court will allow the Department of Justice to remove alleged Venezuelan gang members from the country using the Alien Enemies Act. The ruling ends a lower court freeze on Trump using that act. Today, a federal judge in the case will hold a hearing to see if there's a probable cause to hold the Trump administration officials in contempt of court for violating his orders related to using that wartime act. And speaking of the deporting people, the President Trump is inviting the president of El Salvador to the White House. That according to the press secretary, Caroline Levitt, who says President Nayib Bukele will visit D.C. next week. The two parties will tout cooperation between their countries as the U.S. deports alleged gang member migrants to an El Salvadoran prison. Levitt says Supermax prison is on the table for the deported migrants and added El Salvador's cooperation with the United States has become a model for others to work with the administration. You would think if there's such cooperation, it wouldn't be hard to correct a mistake there.
Yeah, it's funny that they work so well with the U.S., but apparently you can't make a simple phone call to release the 3 guys down there who were imprisoned erroneously.
I mean, does it make sense? No.
It doesn't seem, apparently it's just too hard. Maybe, it is a long distance call. That used to be a problem to El Salvador. They just can't quite get that call into the prison to let those 3 people who are imprisoned erroneously free to come back to this country and at least have their cases adjudicated in some way. I mean, it appears that they've literally sent these people off to die in an El Salvadoran prison. I mean, I don't believe these people will ever see the light of day again. It's a real travesty.
Whoops, our bad. Sorry, we can't fix it. Really? You can't fix it? That's just so silly. Yeah.
It's funny that the most powerful country on earth able to scoop up citizens and innocents and deport them without even a look back at a court order that is handed down to stop it. They just can't seem to have the power to get these people returned.
Is fixing it like an apology and Trump doesn't apologize? Is that what's happening?
They don't back down on anything. I think there is truth to that. But I think they don't care.
They made a mistake. They said it's an administrative error. They admitted wrongdoing.
Right. That is true. They did admit to that extent. But the point is they don't want these people in this country. They don't care about them. And they will let them rot there in El Salvadoran prison. And it's a true travesty.
The IRS will share information with ICE in order to find suspected illegal immigrants. Court documents showing the IRS will provide the Department of Homeland Security with information for migrants who are either under federal investigation or are already facing deportation. The IRS had warned the Trump administration the plan to use it for information could be illegal. In 2023, illegal immigrants paid, or undocumented immigrants paid, nearly $100 billion in federal, state, and local taxes.
Yeah, that's the point. They are a part of the American economy. By the way, David Cay Johnston is waiting, so we will get to him promptly.
Oh, okay. Would you like me to wrap it up?
Well, I don't want to, you know.
I could put a pin in it for later.
Can you put a pin in it?
I could put a pin in it. This report.
We have a rule on this show: Pulitzer Prize winners
we don't keep them
wait.
waiting.
Yeah, right.
We'll do half C's, half the report now, half later. Right?
I love it. You got some good stuff in.
Yeah, it's like a tease. We'll talk about Iran next. Apparently, Elon Musk is calling a key advisor to President Trump a moron. There's news from the wine country and San Francisco and Los Angeles, and we'll get to all of it.
I love that.
In the second hour of the show, this report sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee.
I am having some Coachella Valley coffee right now.
Good coffee. Let me tell you what, fresh beans, all organic. You're supporting women-owned farms. And boy, are you having some heaven in your coffee cup.
It is good.
Use the code MARKT, no spaces, MARKT at checkout. Get your 10% off. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It is Tuesday, and Tuesday is a great day because of a visit from this guy who is a best-selling author, Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist, now professor at Rochester Institute of Technology, teaching smart people stuff that they should know. He is the great David Cay Johnston, everyone. Hi,
Hello,
David.
Mark.
It's such a pleasure to see you, and wow, we have a lot to talk about.
And unfortunately, I got to get off at 25 after.
Okay, so we'll try to be as concise as we possibly can be. I'm going to start not with the tariffs because we had a question into the chat, and then I'll get to the tariffs, and it just is top of mind. And it's about the military adventurism that Trump might actually be part of. It started, this comment from a viewer, was about China. And I was saying I didn't think that a hot war with China was likely. I just didn't feel as though Trump had the stomach for that or the inclination. But Iran was pointed to as a potential theater of war, as Netanyahu met with Trump and might have been nudging him toward that. That was the notion that this viewer had. Can you speak to that?
Well, Donald has talked about if the Iranians don't come to heel on their nuclear weapons program, we're going to bomb them. Now, the Iranians have been very smart about breaking up how they're building their nuclear weapons, putting them in many different locations in very deep bunkers that probably are not amenable even to bunker buster bombs. An attack on Iran, of course, is an act of war and could lead to a lot more than what we would like to have. The Iranians are a threat not just to Israel, but they're perceived as a threat by Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, among others. So this warmongering by a guy who ran for peace and promised, we weren't going to have any military adventures. He goes around threatening Canada, which is taking it very seriously. Greenland says he won't rule out military action against Denmark, which is a NATO ally, and the Panama Canal, all just tell you that anybody who trusts what Donald says is a fool. But clearly, Netanyahu would like us to take out the Iranians, both the regime and their capacity to make nuclear weapons. Donald has no sophistication about this. He has no understanding of the history of the Middle East. If Donald were asked in a place where he couldn't get away, he could be tied down like a deposition. So, Mr. Trump, what is the difference between a Sunni and a Shia in the Muslim world? Why does it matter to America? And where does Wahhabism fit into this? He would have to go off and tell some, well, it's really great, and get you off the subject because he doesn't have a clue. But he does have his finger on the button. And, we just blew $250 million dropping bombs on the Houthis to no effect. And this shouldn't surprise anybody. The post-World War II review of bombings by the U.S. and by the Germans showed that bombing just doesn't work. It's not effective. It terrorizes populations for sure, but they just keep on going and producing. George Ball tried to get Lyndon Baines Johnson to understand that bombing North Vietnam and bombing in Vietnam was not going to work, and he couldn't get him to listen to him, even though the analysis was quite clear. There are selected examples where they can be effective, but they're not large-scale bombing, carpet bombing, and Donald knows. Donald knows so little. He didn't know why there's a memorial over the USS Arizona at Pearl Harbor. So you should be very worried that people are selling him on this idea that what will make him a great president is bombing people.
Well, I was saying also the irony of he wants that military parade for his birthday, from the Pentagon to the White House. It's a 4-mile long parade of tanks and weapon systems that are then missiles. It's a dictatorial flex. It's what you associate with North Korea.
Very Kremlinist.
Yeah. But the irony, of course, is this is a guy who slithered out of military service with with the Vietnam shuffle with his bone spurs. Yeah. All right. Now let's pivot to the other thing that Trump has done. The wanton destruction of the American economy and turning the world economy on its side. Speak to this, if you would, please, David.
I just turned over to the editor, DC Report, a piece about this very issue, and it will have a lot of stuff that will connect dots I haven't seen anybody do. And it's a very short piece, only 800 words. So it'll go up, I hope, later today or tomorrow, and I hope people go read it. But the damage that can be done here, it goes way beyond what's broadly being discussed. For example, the US dollar, the greenback that Donald keeps running down and saying is really worthless. And I was just debating on TV in the Middle East, a Trump Republican, about how the dollar, especially because of Biden, is becoming worthless. It's the world reserve currency. 60% of business transactions worldwide, international transactions, are done in dollars. When the Australians sell liquefied natural gas to China, they do it in dollars. And that's a huge subsidy to us. Once we sell $1 and it goes overseas and doesn't come back, it's like a gift. It's free money to us. And that our currency is used is terrific. Now, I don't think there's any chance that the Chinese renminbi, the yuan, will become the world reserve currency because nobody trusts the Chinese government on private property. But could the euro or a new currency, could perhaps even the Japanese yen become the world reserve currency? Yeah, you betcha it sure could. And Donald is enjoying right now that 70 countries are all eager to bend the knee to him because it feeds his ego and his desperate emptiness inside. But the tariff proposal he put out there is stupid, and I do mean stupid, on so many levels. I mean, we've all heard about the island that only has penguins that's in the list. There's another island that only has British and American soldiers, the only people who occupy it. It's on the list. The way they calculated this was to take half the difference in our trade in goods and then divide and take half of that number. And that was the percentage rate they took, which is just ridiculous. But Donald doesn't, once he gets an idea in his head, change. Most famously in my view, or most importantly in my view, when he was asked in 2016, well, as a Christian, Mr. Trump, tell us about the last time you asked God for forgiveness. Now, anybody who's an actual Christian knows that you're supposed to be in a constant state of seeking forgiveness because every day you do things, whether you recognize it or not, that offend other people. Oh my goodness, I sound woke. And because, of course, Christianity is wokeness. And Donald said, after sort of a quizzical pause, why would I do that? I've never done anything in my life that requires asking forgiveness of anyone. This is how out of touch he is about this. We can turn friends into enemies. The new Prime Minister of Canada has said our relationship as close allies is over. We could end up being told, hey, take your 800 military bases. We're the only country with massive military bases around the world. The Russians have a couple of bases like Syria. I think the British have a couple in the Middle East, in the Indian subcontinent. We're the only country in the world, 800 known U.S. military bases, and every now and then we find out about another one that nobody knew about. Well, a lot of countries could just say, hey, go home. Oh, by the way, when your ships need to fueling or the engine breaks and you need to bring it into dry dock, go away, sink your ship. We don't care. Oh, you want to keep bombers, fighter planes, transport planes and helicopters somewhere near an area you think could be trouble? Nah, we don't want you. Go back to America. I mean, he can isolate us. He can make us a pariah nation. And Donald has no idea of this. He has no sophistication about all of this. And underneath all of this, and this next part is not in my piece, but Donald is not a believer in economic growth. He is a mercantilist. Mercantilism was the dominant economic theory before Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations in 1776, which explained competitive market capitalism, which so far in human experience is the best economic idea we've come up with. Doesn't mean it's perfect. It's got lots of problems. You have to control it, which we're not doing. I would argue that we're mostly corporate socialism, not competitive market economics. But before that, mercantilism was the idea that if you, Mark, have a piece of gold, then that means I don't have it. And the only way for me to get richer is to get your gold. So when the Spanish sent the Armada and thought they'd take over England and get rid of Queen Elizabeth I, it was because British pirates in the Caribbean sacked the town of Trujillo City, I think that's the correct name of it, in Honduras, and stole all the gold that the Spanish had mined and collected. And it was like the umpteenth time they had done this to the Spanish, and the government in Madrid said, we had enough of this. We're going to go get the Brits. Because that was the belief in the world. There's no additional wealth. There's only the amount of wealth that gold represents. And that's how Donald has always seen the world. If you have $1, I need to get it from you so I can be rich. Not, hey, we can create more dollars together by being smart.
Well, what's odd to me is that he reps that he is this master negotiator, and you kind of look in negotiation for a win-win, and he really took office, David, and you thought, I did, hey, dude, don't touch anything. You've inherited the leading economy in the world. Keep your hands off everything and just, hold rose garden ceremonies, etc. Instead, he's decided to touch everything. And as I say, drag the American economy to the ground.
If you think back to when George W. Bush became president with a huge budget surplus, for the last 4 years of the Clinton administration, the government was in surplus. It's deja vu all over again. Let's inherit something and then just wreck it. And Donald is doing a really good job of wrecking this. And, one of the things that came out, the New York Times revealed a couple of days ago, and I've been very critical of my former newspaper's reporting, but I thought this was genius, is that Navarro, the former UC Irvine economics professor who holds lots of just bizarre views, Peter Navarro has often cited the work of another economist who it turns out is a fiction. It's an anagram of Peter Navarro's name. The guy doesn't exist. And this is the kind of unscrupulous, incompetent, fringe, and I'm being polite, thinking people who Donald Trump attracts and is attracted to.
I mean,
so why would you trust him about anything? He doesn't.
The out and out lies. And I think, and you've written about this, but Trump likes the shiny objects, and Navarro is kind of a shiny object from a media standpoint. He won't slow down. You can't overtalk him. He just keeps on speaking with this divine confidence. And I suspect that Trump, is in the thrall of that kind of guy.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And that's how people like Steve Bannon get into his world. He must be at some level listening a little bit to Bannon. And Bannon has warned, I think quite correctly, that if you go after Medicaid, that's the federal program for healthcare for poor people, that benefits Republicans far more than Democrats. I mean, one of the things about
that is to say, Medicaid benefits Republicans more than
Democrats. That's right, Medicaid.
Yeah.
I mean, the Democrats have basically used to be thought of as the party of the poor, LBJ, the war on poverty, though I think it was more of a few skirmishes, not a war. But Republicans now rely on the votes of poor people, poor working class people who think that the billionaires really care about them and want to take care of them. And horrible things are about to happen. I mean, the cuts that have been made at the FDA, we're going to have more diseases, more people die from food poisoning. We've already had 3 people die from measles. and it's moved RFK Jr. just a bit to say that measles vaccinations are good, but he continues to attack MMR vaccines per se. We're going to, I don't think there'll be a change among the people who are poor and support Trump until, I'm sorry, my child is going to die because I can't get medical care for my child. Wait a minute, I had medical care. What do you mean? Grandma died because insulin went from $35 a month to $1,000. What? Who did that? And when this starts to happen, you're going to see Trump blame the Democrats. He's going to find a way. What he'll probably say is, well, you know, they spent all the money we had, so it's gone, and I don't have no choice. It's the Democrats who forced this upon you, which is utter nonsense. But given how good Donald has, how successful he's been at selling nonsense to people, just watch, it'll happen.
Well, I mean, it is the most effective spin I've ever seen. I mean, they get onto the, on blast on Fox News Channel and blame Biden, an economic time bomb, et cetera, whatever. They'll assign it to Biden and the Democrats somehow. In our limited time, I want to get you to another question that came up today, and that was, is this plan on the part of Trump to wreck the American economy part of a gift to the billionaire boys club that is his cabinet and all of his constellation of people around him to swoop in and get great deals in the stock market, on real estate that's wildly discounted? In other words, from the ashes of the American economy that he has incinerated, will his people be able to benefit? And is it really just a plan as a gift to all of them?
It's not a plan. Causality is not the issue here. It's correlation. Look, lots of people go broke when there's an expanding economy, and lots of people get rich when the economy is contracting. And if you got out of the stock market a few months ago, and generally you can't time markets. If you're an ordinary person, it's not a good idea. But if you sold your mutual funds and bought, put it in cash, money market funds, which are paying about 4%, or bonds, not bond funds, but bonds, because when they're going to mature, you're going to be fine riding this through. But very wealthy people are heavily invested in the stock market. They don't have a lot of options about that. They're going to suffer some loss. The problem is, so if you've got $5 billion and all of a sudden you've only got $3.5 billion, gee, it must be tough to get by on $3.5 billion. For people who are just retiring, this is really bad. If the first 2, 3, 4 years of your retirement are in a down economy, you can easily run out of money even if you oversave. So there will be a lot of distressed sales of assets. There are going to be significant numbers of small businesses that are going to fail. I worry about my oldest son's business. He's owns a retail store that sells tchotchkes. And a lot of it comes from China. So higher prices for what he gets in, people are going to have less money to spend. I worry a lot about his business. And I've talked to some other people I know who own small businesses who are very, very worried that they will end up having to fold their business, maybe even file bankruptcy, and wait for this to come back. And then imagine if you were, Mark, a homeowner in Northern Virginia or Maryland near DC, and you need to sell your house for whatever reason. Well, housing prices there are about to fall sharply because of the tens of thousands of federal workers in the Washington market that have been just let go most cases for no reason whatsoever. And that's going to tank those markets. So there's going to be a lot of economic carnage, but this is, in Donald's view, we're taking medicine. It will make us stronger, and it's not part of a plot. He's not capable of that kind of plot. He is not a strategist by any stretch of the imagination, and he's not very good at tactics. What he's good at is, I have this idea in my head. I don't know where it came from. I will figure out how to make people think that's a genius idea.
Yeah, no, the con is his thing. Okay, sort of rapid fire, David, because I know our time is limited a bit. Yep. Also got this email. Is it true that China is pumping money into Trump's Bitcoin scam? and filling his pockets that way? If so, tanking the American economy and global markets, we create a vacuum for China to take over all that European manufacturing and distribution that we lost. That would make sense for Trump's reciprocity. I don't know. There's a lot there, but I do think. Go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know who's using real money to buy fake money, which is what Bitcoin and its like are. But China is the biggest winner of the Trump administration. Their power and influence in the world and Asia is going to increase because of Trump. And the Chinese don't think like we do in terms of 90 days or 2 years or 4-year elections. They think like the Catholic Church. We're here forever.
Right.
And so they're very strategic. They're very highly educated.
They're meeting with the European Union right now. I mean, there's already a rapprochement there.
Yes, and the Chinese are going to be very strategic about all this and very smart. They have some of their own problems. They've been fiscally grossly irresponsible, but so long as China can borrow in its own currency, just as the U.S. government borrows in its own currency, they cannot go broke. They can cause inflation. They can cause some economic damage to ordinary Chinese, but the government cannot go broke. And Xi will come out well at the end of this. For among many other reasons, he's a serious person, unlike Donald.
This from Michael D. David, what would Putin do differently if he wanted to destroy the U.S. economy? Is this not textbook Putin coming out of the Oval Office?
Yeah, yes. And Putin, let's remember, his economy is really in super bad shape. They've been reduced to barter for deals. They literally had to import potatoes to feed their population. I mean, Russia importing potatoes, and they've just announced, talking ceasefire, the biggest draft in history of that country. And they've used up these tanks that are easy to destroy because they're from the 1950s and 60s. They're using horse and donkey drawn carts to get food and other things to the front. And while the Ukrainians are certainly under a lot of pressure, they've proven to be a heck of a lot smarter and better military, both strategy and tacticians, than the Russians.
But to Michael's point, does it feel almost Putin-esque the way Trump is wrecking the economy?
Yeah, I don't think Putin's doing that. I think Donald's doing that. And I don't think Donald's doing it so much at Putin's behest as he's not doing it at his behest. He doesn't know what he's doing. He just doesn't know what he's doing. Donald is not a businessman. He is a cash extractor.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've made this point so well through your many writings, and it is true that he's not the mastermind. Yet in all the spins and in all the kind of calculations that one does around his quote policies, it's sort of ascribed to that. So I'm going to get you out of here on time. I think, are we good? Let me just.
Yeah, you got about 3 minutes.
Okay, great. So David, in looking at the days ahead with Trump, I mean, he's just threatened the Chinese with, as you know, what would end up being 150% tariff on all Chinese goods. I mean, I know there's no way to really know, but he feels as though he's now responding with all ego and bravado, and he is capable of pulling the trigger on this stuff.
Oh, I won't be surprised in the least if Donald actually imposes these terrific tariffs. China is replacing us as the major trading partner of a number of countries around the world, and this will just speed that process. And the Chinese, their manufacturing capacity is now up at the level of ours. They are the dominant supplier of electric vehicles around the world. Donald, of course, dumps on electric vehicles except for Teslas because they're made by his patron, again, co-president Elon Musk. And China has been, very smartly around the world doing things, buying up land to grow food in Africa and water rights and ports with heavy equipment and all sorts of other projects all over the world and building goodwill. And I predict to you that China, before long, will start trying to replace the void left by Donald Trump shutting down AID. Those big sacks of grain, the boxes with medicine that say a gift from the American people are going to say a gift from the generous people of China. And that will do us enormous damage that cannot be easily undone.
Last question, what's going to happen with the Venezuelans, I'll just put it in quotes, but those who were, and now with SCOTUS having given the Trump administration more room on them, they're down in an El Salvadoran prison. Will those innocents, there are 3 of them that we know of, ever get out?
That remains to be seen, because the Supreme Court's actions are on matters of, was this the right court to bring your case, or did you frame the issue the right way? They're avoiding substance. But here's what you should be worried about. 2 things. One, the lack of regard for the individual and their liberty. And we've seen this from the Supreme Court. We have executed people we now have incredibly good reason to believe were truly innocent, because the courts wouldn't listen to new evidence or junk science that was presented, things like that. The second thing you need to worry about is that a lot of our Constitution says you can't do things, but there's no enforcement mechanism. Donald right now is collecting money from the dictator in Saudi Arabia through the golf tournament he just went to at his place, the Doral Country Club near the Miami airport. How are you going to enforce the emoluments clause of the Constitution? Because none of us have standing, the courts say, to bring it. Only Congress could do it. That's not going to happen. His party's in control. We're going to quickly discover there are significantly larger problems in our Constitution, because it was based on the premise that people of goodwill would run the government, and we now have someone of ill will.
David, I'll let you go. Thank you. Grateful for your time always.
Talk to you next week, pal.
Look forward to next week.
On Wednesday next week.
Wednesday next week. All right. David Cay Johnston,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Thanks, David. Love it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I love that David got some love from Dillette. David always has a calm way of describing the upcoming doom.
We don't need to panic about doom. We can be calm about it.
Oh, my God. It is true. Man, these are scary times. But I'm hopeful that, let's... this is from Pamela Kirby. She's an OG of this show, for a $5 super chat. Thanks, Mark. Mark Thompson Show is too factual and professional for the likes of MAGA lunatics. Red card all trolls. Hands off our show. Yeah, thank you, Pamela, for the support, and big shout out to you for being so supportive from the very beginning of this show. I don't mind pushback. I kind of enjoy pushback, and it can be. Those dialogues can be really interesting. But yeah, trolling, I don't have time for it. And I'm just too tired. I can't deal with it anymore. So thanks for the love. Love the show, says Long Gone Sam. What up, Long Gone Sam? Would give more, but playing SSI roulette. Gulp.
Oh, no.
Gotta save money for the after party.
Oh,
yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden Kim is...
Yeah, well, SSI roulette, that's about the size of it.
That is the size of it. It is brutal. It's deeply troubling, and it's a time that no one can really, give us a sense of what may happen. Sushi Roll says Trump sells himself as the ultra patriot, the truth, God's anointed and appointed, the fighter of the faith, the last hope, the answer to every problem, etc. Yes, he does, Sushi Roll. He does. And that's his pitch, and it seems to have been adopted by many people. A lot of people are on board with that entire pitch. So I wanted to see if there's anything else, and then I can make a move. Dot says, always make sure I catch David Cay Johnston. Glad you gave the shovel to the troll. They are not about information, only about picking fights over lies. Yeah, thank you, Dot. That's really cool. Thanks for the love. Tony, did you get your computer up and running now?
Oh, yeah, I've been this whole time.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's when I had the Dodger clip and stuff.
Oh, cool. So do you have did we didn't run the Dodger clip, though, did we?
Did we? Okay, I have it ready.
Yeah. Can we run it? You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that Donald Trump enjoys, and to be fair to Trump, I mean, this is something that every president does. They welcome the winners of the World Series or the Super Bowl, et cetera. It's a very Americana thing. And Trump, of course, luxuriates in this because he's a photo op president, right? He is sort of playing president. It's the theater associated with president that Trump really is best at. When you actually have to be president and administer to the nation and actually manage the American economy, manage American trade, manage the American military, that's the stuff he is not good at. He knows nothing. He's vacuous, vapid, and without a clue. So that doesn't mean he doesn't do things. He does things on 10. That's the problem. But the things that he's really good at, not the management stuff, not the administering stuff, but the photo op stuff with baseball teams and football teams who come to the White House. So here he was with the Dodgers yesterday.
Congratulate Max.
Max Muncy, is that?
Arms are very strong when I touch them. I'm used to shaking politicians and hitting their arm, and it's like Jello. And now it's like steel. All these guys. But Max, that's great. And also Yoshi. Mookie, that guy can play, can't he? I mean, unbelievable. You really. Mookie is, I've been watching it. I don't want to say I watched him when he was on Boston, but I did. I didn't think that was a particularly good trade when they made it, and I happened to be right. And Max Muncy, I want to congratulate innings with
Announcement.
All right. Well, there you go. That was Donald Trump with the Dodgers. We have Los Angelinos who are viewers of this show, and you will appreciate your team now with the President of the United States. By the way, the Dodgers probably have a better team now than the team that won the World Series last year. So they may be making a return trip to the White House. And the Giants fans, we have many in the Bay Area who love their Giants. Yes. I don't know if there'll be any White House visits in the Giants' future, but they can still put up a hell of a show. And looking forward to that. All right. Kim will now do the second half of her newscast. And before we get to that, Tony, I wondered if I have time, I think I do, to update Mark's Madness. Can you grab the latest screens?
Now,
and we'll,
Mark's Madness.
Yeah, here's the update. In Mark's Madness, we pit two sound drops against each other. Our drops are part of the show, and Tony will now show you. In the first hour, it was going back to Texas. No, is that, what was that? Hang on a second. In the first hour, it was Fauci, you do not know what you're, isn't that right, Tony? All right. Can I?
Yes, this was the first hour.
All right. Thank
girl,
you.
baby
Thank you.
girl.
Nobody wants to come on board. All right. Yeah. So AOC in the first hour.
Oh, girl, baby girl. Don't even play.
That is going up again. This is in the first hour. This is the Sweet 16 of Fauci. You do not know what you are talking about. Okay, so you do not know what you're talking about against girl, baby girl. And right now, that's a pretty close race. 58% for AOC and 42% of the votes for Fauci. Now we go into this.
Mark's Madness.
Yes.
I can't believe it.
I'm told this is the beginning of the Elite Eight. You'll vote now for either.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Or you'll vote for.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
Again, you will vote for either.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Or.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
Only one moves on from the Elite Eight. Going back to Texas, or we could try ignoring it. Vote until midnight tonight Pacific time. 3 a.m. Yeah, it's a tough one.
I mean, who doesn't love the Texas lady?
I love that Texas lady.
I'm going to try ignoring it. Has its own coffee cup.
Oh, yeah. We could try ignoring it. I didn't think of that.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
Yeah, that does.
Never bet against Shatner.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Airplane 2, baby.
We could try ignoring it. That's right. That is from the
Airplane
Shatner
2.
Exchange, Airplane 2. Good knowledge from Tom.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it was very funny.
First one was better, but second one was good.
No, I thought that it really was very, very good. We got, what's the other Shatner drop we have from...
This is no picnic, no summer camp.
Yeah, that's from that's from T.J. Hooker.
Yeah, I said that's T.J. Hooker, right?
Shatner never, never disappoints. Anyway, right now, It's ignoring.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
So that may do it. But I love that you can all.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
That, to me, is one of the great quotes. It was done outside of a courthouse, and her son had it was a terrorism related thing. I think it was he's some MAGA guy, I think, who got maybe it was a prosecution related to J6 or something. I don't know. I forget. But I remember it was her son, and she was there in the courthouse, and the press descended on her, and they asked her a bunch of questions, and she finally just said, "You can all go to hell. I'm going back to Texas." So that was that. All right. Smash the like button like
Smash
a boss.
it with your iron rod.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up and do subscribe to the show, share, maybe even David Cay Johnston. We drop it as a video. Share it across your social media. It helps build our crew. It helps build our footprint. It doesn't cost you anything, and really do appreciate it. If you want to support this show in any kind of financial way, I know that kind of finances are a little crazy right now. They're crazy for us too. If you want to support our work, you go onto PayPal or Patreon. If you're already on Patreon, this doesn't affect you. Don't worry. But if you are not yet on Patreon, go through our website or the web. Don't go through the app. App is bad. App bad. I got a couple of emails about, I don't quite understand. Is the app, should I? No, don't go through the app. All right. So the Patreon app, don't even play, as AOC would say. I mean, don't go through that Patreon app.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Don't even play with that Patreon app. You want to support the show, you can do it at our website, themarkthompsonshow.com, and then click on support via Patreon or support via PayPal. And that way you can help our effort. And you can subscribe to the show, of course, and that's the other way that you can help us, and that costs you nothing. Thanks to everybody who stepped up. You really do sustain us. That's why we run your names at the end of every show. Kim's News, and we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister with News Part 2. Stocks are lower on Wall Street as concerns remain over these.
Get used to saying that. Yeah.
Global tariffs. Yeah. Whitehouse says it'll impose a 104% tariff across every Chinese import starting tomorrow. 104%? What? It comes after China announced retaliatory tariffs against the U.S., with Trump promising to raise duties against the country if they don't remove those tariffs. MAGA apparently turning on Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett because she sided with liberal justices going against Donald Trump. This came in the conservative majority Supreme Court 5-4 decision on the Alien Enemies Act. So the act is being used to deport Venezuelan gang members, but the Supreme Court limited its authority to allow the accused reasonable time to go to court and challenge the case against them. So
yeah, they had no time. I mean, they were given no time. So
right.
Yeah, exactly.
So Amy Coney Barrett decides with the liberal justices, and apparently the right wingers are coming after her something fierce. She has had pictures of her and her family posted, her kids posted. So the thought is that MAGA is now turning on her and coming after her kids.
This is the real danger in America right now. I don't think it should be underplayed at all. And I don't think it can be overstated that there is a physical danger that legislators and judges and anyone who steps out of line is now facing down. It is a scary time in this country. There is a real sense that my family could be threatened if I step out of line with MAGA Nation. And this is really unprecedented in my lifetime. I understand there has been this stochastic terrorism, these one-offs here and there through time. I mean, you have, as you know, we are, famous all the world for school shootings, for shootings in malls, and all the rest of the kind of the things that come with the proliferation of weapons in this country. But what is happening now is a kind of threat of political violence, and it really has to be something that we focus on, and yet the party in power benefits immensely because those who are threatening the violence are supporting the party in power. So you have no real governmental slapback on it, and for that reason, I really am concerned about it. So that said, in a way, this falls into cleanly that category, which is step out of line, Ms. Barrett, Justice Barrett, and we will threaten you and your family. It's a chilling, chilling thing to consider, but it's very much of the moment in America.
President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East will reportedly negotiate with Iran regarding its nuclear program on Saturday. This comes after President Trump said the U.S. would be speaking with Iranian officials on Monday. Iran's foreign minister said the talks will be indirect in Oman, although the United States has insisted, no, these discussions will be direct. Elon Musk is calling a key advisor to President Trump a moron. Peter Navarro claimed Tesla is not a car manufacturer and instead is a car assembler that puts vehicles together with parts from other countries. Musk said what Navarro claimed is demonstrably false. He said the trade advisor is dumber than a sack of bricks and said his company is the most vertically integrated auto manufacturer in the United States. So there you go. Peter Navarro tangling with Elon Musk.
It was a food fight between those two. Navarro is, as mentioned by David Cay Johnston, he's just he's a blowtorch. You know, he goes on. He's a media darling because he doesn't blink. He just keeps coming at you, and he literally makes the stuff up. Well, look at what he did when he's citing this economist that David Cay Johnston talked about it. He's been citing this economist for years who's completely invented. It's a fake economist. He took his name, reversed the letters, and he made up this economist. Crazy.
At least 27 people are dead following a deadly roof collapse at a Dominican Republic nightclub. Former Major League Baseball player Octavio Dodal among those pulled alive from the rubble here. Local media reports in the Dominican Republic say at least 120 people were injured in the early morning incident today. The sister of retired MLB star Nelson Cruz reportedly killed in this accident. Rescue crews are still searching through the debris for survivors after that roof came down. Here in the wine country, a multi-million-dollar grant aimed at wildfire prevention in Napa County is being pulled off the table. Local officials say a federal grant program designed to help reduce the threat from wildfires has been canceled for the count. Federal officials call the $35 million grant program a waste and ineffective. Napa County, by the way, sees wildfires every year, if not every wildfire season.
Man.
Monday marked 3 months since the start of the Eaton fire in Southern California, and not one building permit has been finalized in Altadena. Los Angeles County Supervisor Catherine Barger saying it's totally unacceptable. She also says more than 1,500 properties are ready for rebuilding and they're just sitting there waiting for permits. The process could be sped up soon because today, Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors will vote on a motion to create a permitting authority. San Francisco could be losing some of its public restrooms. You know what happens when that happens. The city's 30 public restrooms, known as pit stops, could be downsized in the coming days as San Francisco looks to close a widening budget gap. Yeah, there's the pit stop. A lot of homeless people use the pit stops. And if they don't have the pit stops, then what happens?
They go on the street, which is really awful. Yeah.
Seems to me that in our budget dealings, we need to make room for the pit stops. I don't know.
Yeah.
Congestion pricing is staying put in New York City at least well into the fall. The MTA and Trump administration have apparently come to an agreement to allow congestion pricing tolls to remain through at least late October. The new timeline will allow the case to go through the courts. Federal transportation officials initially ordered an end to this controversial toll in March, but both the MTA and Governor Hochul say they feel they're on solid legal ground and they will defy any order. Is it so strange for a president to be sticking his fingers in local politics there?
It is. I mean, typically it's not something that's done, but I think this president likes to stick his fingers in as much as he possibly can.
Oh, goodness. Television.
Yeah, and I mean that in every way.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah.
Television sports personality Stephen A. Smith says he is leaving all doors open in regards to a presidential bid. Smith said from the sports desk to the Resolute desk. Smith said in a post on his ex profile. Life is great, and he hates the thought of being a politician, but he is sick of this mess. He has been critical of both sides at times, both pushing for the Democratic Party to refocus on key issues for voters, as well as going after the GOP for entertaining the idea of a third Trump term. So Stephen A. Smith may be running for president. We'll see.
It's a real reflection, by the way, just in the way that Trump ascended to power, that we are very influenced by name recognition, by the media imprint that we have of someone. Trump's image was crafted, as you know, by Mark Burnett in The Apprentice, and the slow motion shots of him walking out of the plane that said Trump, out of the helicopter that said Trump, into the gold-laden building that said Trump. These were all ways in which you could burnish this image of Trump as a successful businessman on the American TV viewing public. It was wildly successful, #1 show, and it created the impression of Trump, which is the opposite of truth, which is that he was a successful businessman. He was not. He was a failed businessman, a wildly failed businessman. So wildly successful is what we see on television. Wildly failing is what he is in real life. And this is now to Stephen A. Smith, kind of where we are with Stephen A. Smith. We don't really know much about Stephen A. Smith. We get his takes on the Celtics' chances this NBA season, whether the Warriors will really, and Steph Curry can really make a charge, and we can get all of his thoughts across the sports spectrum. And by the way, he's a smart guy, so I'm sure he probably has some really clean takes on politics and the world at large. But, you know, he is as a legislator, what he knows about government, that may be fairly shallow. And not to be fair to him, he could maybe be brought up to speed on that pretty quickly. He's probably a quick study, and he's probably a good study, unlike the president that we have. But I come back to the original point, which is he's a media figure. And increasingly, I think what you're finding across the globe, and certainly in this country, is that people spark to people they know, people they feel good about, media figures. You know, the Dr. Phils of the world, the Oprahs of the world. And, you know, we've seen others try to make that charge. Who was the crudité guy? Dr. Oz. He's now running and administering Medicaid, I believe. And so, you know, he finds his way into government. Now, again, these may be smart people, some of them misguided but smart. I suspect, just in closing, I would say, Your Honor, that it is true that Stephen A. Smith is a smart dude, but more to the point, it is less about public service. It's less about government. It's less about legislative knowledge. And it's more about what you have as a media name and what you have in terms of momentum in public and in public forums like Twitter and Facebook, et cetera. It's that following that you can bring to an election and actually maybe succeed. That's what succeeded with Trump. And if he could get a sufficient coalition around him, it might work for Stephen A. Smith.
The iconic Victorian house from the show Full House in San Francisco has sold for $6 million. It's a lot of money for that house. It's located on Postcard Row. The 4-bedroom home originally listed at $6.5 million just last June. Fans will recognize its famous front door and bay window through the interior scenes on that show. They were filmed on a Hollywood set, so it's just the outside that we know. The house was built in 1900. It was renovated in 2019, previously owned by show creator Jeff Franklin, who sold it for just over $5 million in 2020. So it's gone up another million in just the last 5 years. Do you want to live in a house where people are constantly standing at the bottom of your stairs looking up? I mean, this is a throng of tourists always at the bottom of your stairs. This place, they can't get away from the people coming by here.
That's a good point. I didn't consider that. You would be constantly besieged by tourists. Wow.
Constantly. People taking pictures of your house, people standing at the bottom of your steps, people constantly parking in front of your house to look. $6 million for that hassle of that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you really just want, I mean, some people might really get off on that. You know, they might love the kind of the high profile nature of the house, but I'm with you. Like, I don't want people hanging out.
No, who really does?
Yeah, we live here, and we appreciate that you guys take a picture and please move along. Right.
You've seen the guy from the Sex and the City house where they filmed the exterior of Sarah Jessica Parker's, you know,
Yeah.
what was it, Tribeca Loft or whatever it was, and people are the guy is constantly telling people, "I live here, leave me alone."
I don't mean to laugh. It really
seriously.
is a problem. You know, I used to live next to Travis Scott, who's the rapper. Yeah. And but nobody really knew where he lived. See, this is, as you say, these are TV and you'd see, like, I lived on that same road about a half mile down was Jim Carrey and stuff. Yeah, there's Travis Scott's place. So thank you, Tony, for putting it up.
You live in some fancy neighborhoods.
Oh
over
my
there.
God, my place. Literally, okay, I'm not exaggerating. My place literally was the size of maybe one of his floors. You know, like that top floor. Maybe my house was that size. Okay.
Stupid view though you had.
Oh my God, the view was great, and the view on my.
I didn't think my Jeep was going to make it up that hill. I'll tell you.
No, I know. Tony used to come up and
get up there all the time.
It was spectacular view. I missed that house, but of course the neighborhood burned. His house is fine because it's all concrete and glass, as you can see. And but anyway, to the point, what Kim is saying is right. When you're street or you're on some show, your house exterior is shown, everybody then knows where it is, what it looks like. They're seeking it out. So in the case of Travis Scott, my neighbor's house, they didn't know, what it looked like. They didn't know how to find it. There was just, you know what I mean? It wasn't on a TV show. The Full House, they all know what it looks like, and it's kind of taken on this mythology, and people seek it out, and there it is in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And so you have to buy into that mythology. By the way, I have
Oregon, the Goonies house as well.
Yeah, the Goonies house, yes.
Goonies house, strong, good. Quickly, can I follow Kim? Being told, CC Ryder says Ron Filipowski on Midas Touch called out Stephen A. Smith, Mark, because he promoted GOP lies about January 6th on his YouTube channel. I did not know that. Thank you for that. Also, Stephen A. is kind of a clown, says Sam M. That apparently, though, is not a deal breaker.
It's not.
Yeah, that's right. You can still be president and be a clown. On Stephen A. Smith, this is not a Stephen A. Smith. Stupid question, but doesn't the federal government get the money from the tariffs? Yeah, the federal government does get the money from the tariffs. But that not a stupid question at all. I mean, that's the tariff money we pay when we buy this stuff, and the tariff money is paid by the importer who's importing the Chinese goods, and then either passes that charge on to us or doesn't. Cheech and Chong in 2028, Kim. That is the call from Man from the West 420. Yeah, I guess Man from the West 420 has.
Isn't anybody but a we?
Yeah, has that. We know who Man from the West 420 voted for in Mark's Madness. I
was going to say, before I do my last story about Dolly Parton, I will say you just mentioned the tariffs again, and I will say that now it seems like the GOP is turning on each other. There's a story that popped up about this GOP Senator Tom Tillis. He's facing re-election, and he's issuing this big tariff warning. He said, "Who do I get to whose throat do I get to choke if this proves to be wrong?" You have 8 GOP senators that are now looking and turning around at Trump and going, "What are you doing?"
That's right.
It seems like maybe there's some trouble in paradise in MAGA land.
Well, you've got Chuck Grassley from Iowa, Mitch McConnell from Kentucky. I mean, Jerry Moran, as you say, Kansas, Murkowski in Alaska, Todd Young from Indiana, Tillis, you mentioned, North Carolina, Susan Collins from Maine. And they're basically saying, hey, Mr. President, you don't have the power to institute these tariffs. And of course, they're right. But Trump has had the power ceded to him by Congress, but now you have members of the Senate that are beginning to push back. We'll see, but they'll have to have a congressional vote to get it. Interesting though, there might be some cracks in the foundation.
Yeah.
Mark Thompson for president in 2028. Thank you.
There you
Amy
go.
B. Finally.
Hey, all you need to be is a media personality. You've got that
I got
one.
a little ways to go.
No, you're well known. We'll sell it.
Sure. Well, okay, there's that. On Stephen A. Smith again, Kim. LMFAO. No, Mark, he's not smart, Stephen A. Smith. It's like a radio personality bragging that he can be a mechanical scientist. Really?
Neither is Trump, but that problem is you discount these people who really have no qualifications to be president, but they have a name recognition, and all of a sudden you turn around and they're, rising in the rankings.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Tim is echoing what I'm saying, that we
I
really
am.
live in a media environment that rewards the profile of the person more than the qualifications of the person. That is to say, how high profile they are really is what they weigh in with the most heft, not what they bring to the party from the standpoint of what they really do. And of course, Trump, to his credit, is such a great BS artist that he had the sense, I know the best people. Let me tell you, I've forgotten more than most ever know. I know more about terrorism and how to hunt it down than any of the generals do. I know more about the economy. I know more about the courts, et cetera. And again, he tapped into kind of an anger. He tapped into, I'd suggest, all kinds of prejudices. I'll just put it that way, that the American people have and continue to be part of our culture. And he was able to ride that to victory. And now. He's really, I think, gained momentum as a result of what I was talking about before, which is the many who've been cowed by threats of violence, judges, legislators, etc. So,
lastly, there is a new petition to rename the Nashville International Airport in honor of Dolly Parton. Supporters of the change of the name for Parton have gathered nearly 50,000 signatures on a petition to rename the airport. The petition organizers believe renaming the airport after Parton would be a fitting tribute for her impact on Tennessee and on the world. There's a channel, Fox 17, in this area reporting the petition was created in response to a previous proposal to rename the airport after Donald Trump, which faced resistance and ultimately failed to move forward. They say, departin' with Parton. Yep.
I love it. Departing with Parton. I'm for it. I'm going to Nashville in just 2 weeks, I think.
Are you really?
Yeah. Later this month, I'll be in Nashville, and I love my Dolly. Love to see it happen. It's a wild idea, but
it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking.
Right into Dolly Parton. There you go.
How about that, y'all? Yeah.
This report is sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee. We'll do it again because it's just so good. It deserves to be mentioned twice.
Love my Coachella.
CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Yes. Having some now?
Okay. They're delicious.
It is the best coffee on earth. I always felt that. I was drinking Coachella Valley Coffee before they became sponsors on the show. So I'm not saying it just because they're sponsors on the show. I've had coffee all around the world. Vietnam, Turkish coffee on the Champs-Elysees and is that what it's called? The Champs-Elysees in Paris.
Sure.
I had the cafe, a little espresso. This is better than all of that. Check it out. Go to their website, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And when you go there, you'll see all the many people who have shared their thoughts and their feelings about the great product that comes out of CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. So many of our viewers and listeners support them and actually enjoy the teas and coffee. It's not just coffee. Check out their tea.
Do you know what else they have? They have spices. They have some spices on their website even.
I love it. And I really love it in that you can put it all in your cart, grab it, and then get 10% off with our discount code MARKT. And they will take care of you down there. They're tasting notes on all of the different coffees and teas. Jump on them. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Again, MARKT at checkout for 10% off.
I'm Kim McAllister, and this is the end of the Mark Thompson Show News Part 2. There you go.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
My beautiful Christians, I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia pays cash may be the word of the day. Quickly, I want to update Mark's Madness. It is
Mark's Madness.
It is something hot. It's going down right now. You'll vote for one of these two either. You can. Sorry. That's my fault. I muted that.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Right. That or.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
That's right. Or again, you'll vote.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
No.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
It's ignoring it or going back to Texas. You can vote until 3 a.m. Eastern Time, midnight Pacific Time. It looks as though try ignoring it is pulling ahead of going back to Texas, 67% to 33%.
Wow.
The tighter contest is AOC baby girl and Fauci do not know what you're talking about. 59% for AOC and 41% for Fauci. The Fauci may go down on this one. I feel like
you do not know what you are talking about.
Either that or the AOC.
Oh, girl, baby girl. Don't even play.
Man, she feels like she's going to the next round, doesn't she? Yeah.
I think so.
Is the Elite Eight. That's where we are on Mark's Madness today. A Christmas Story. That house someone bought and made it into a museum of the movie, says Wes Theory, with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Wes, OG of the show. And it's true. It's like if you want to go with the publicity, it's what I was saying to Kim before. If you want to celebrate the Full House publicity, you turn your house into a tourist place, you set up a gift shop, whatever it might be. That's a totally different thing. Right? What's that, Tony?
The Christmas Story house, I believe, is like Airbnb, so you can like rent it for the night and stuff like that. I believe so.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's great. And thank you, Wes, for the $5 super sticker. Appreciate that, sir. Big shout out to you. Vicky on Sausalito says, "Hi, Mark. Things are so stressful right now. Thanks for being there for all of us." Oh, thank you. Well, thank you, Vicky, for your support and for allowing us to be here. So thank you. Vicky in Sausalito is an OG of the show also. There is your Christmas house, the house from A Christmas Story, if you wanted to rent it for Airbnb. Spend the night in the Christmas house, the house from A Christmas Story.
See, that's fun. It's like a full-on embracement of the reason that house is famous, rather than trying to turn it back into a private residence where it's always going to attract attention and be annoying.
I don't know that embracement is a word, but I nonetheless will ding it. All right. I have Dolly Parton for president in 2028. I'd love it. Dolly seems great. It would be terrific. But Kim is right about sometimes you just got to. But the problem is, buying a house in, that neighborhood where the Full House house is, and you spend $4 million for it or $6 million for it. You're not, you want to live in it, don't you?
Same thing with the Mrs. Doubtfire house in San Francisco.
Yeah. Right. Mrs. Doubtfire. There's another one. Yeah. On the right wingers who are threatening various judges, and in this case, Amy Coney Barrett, most recently for stepping out of line with what they consider MAGA Nation, there is this. Inlay says, these are not right wingers. I am a right winger. We are for law and order. That's MAGA. Please separate that. True Republican right wing want judges to be non-political. I would, of course, I even made the point that the thing that's happened is MAGA Nation has risen up and they're the threat. No question about it. I mean, if you really are a right winger and a traditional GOPer, this has to be a weird time because you're kind of the only guy left at the party. Everybody else has gone over to MAGA. They're all enablers and they're all explainers and they're all rationalizing and beginning to dance to the weird beat laid down by the Mad King. But you're right. I mean, I'm a law and order guy too. I always call myself a law and order lib. I'm a tree hugger. I care desperately about the environment, and but I also believe in strict law and order, and in meaning I want our cities to be ruled by laws that are really enforced. I don't think you can have the kind of crazy the stuff that's happened a lot in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Sacramento, and this is in the West, where you find homeless encampments engulfing entire regions, business districts, et cetera. And there have to be alternatives for these people, too. It's not just a question of sweeping them up. There have to be alternatives for those who are unhoused, who are homeless. But when you talk about robbery. You talk about the smash and grabs. I mean, this is intolerable. Can't continue. But again, we come from opposite sides of the aisle. I mean, we may overlap on the law and order questions, but I don't see how you in any way can be cool with the GOP. They have completely put themselves in the MAGA camp. So, as I say, you may be the last guy at the punch bowl because everybody else has been drinking it. Amy P with a super sticker for $9.99, $10 from Amy P. Thank you, Amy P, and a big shout out.
Big shout out.
Yeah. And Karen Combs. Love you guys. Thanks for bringing real news and some fun. Come on, Karen. Thank you for the $10 super chat.
Chat. Mm-hmm.
Thanks a lot. That's really cool. Karen, Amy, love going out. Where would I be without my ladies on this show? NASDAQ only down 500, says Blue Spark. Happy days are here again. Yeah. And no one can be against Dolly, says West Theory. She is non-political and everyone loves her. Yeah, it's true. She's managed to stay clear of politics, and her heart is so clearly, I'll just say clearly, seems to be in all the right places. She's collaborated with so many. She's just a wonderful talent, So, Biden has economic advisors, and Trump is his only advisor, says Pam Pierce. I think that is true. I also believe, last thing on this, that Trump surrounds himself now with loyalists, with yes people. And whenever you surround yourself with yes people, no matter what you're doing, it's a mistake. I mean, have you seen movies where some guy wrote, directed, produced the entire thing, and by the way, we just seen White Lotus is that, and it's brilliant, okay? But you can see those who are just surrounded by people going, gosh, I love that shot. Yeah, I love that. Great job. Oh my God, it looks great. Got nothing, I think when you surround yourself with yes people, you are likely going to end up with a failed project. What is that, Tony?
I was going to say, the Star Wars prequels. No one told George Lucas no.
There you go. There you go. In Tony's world, the Star Wars prequels.
The prequels.
Fail.
It could have been good. And then the Disney ones are, whew.
Yeah. I like we can engage Tony on some of the Star Wars stuff. He's got a very, Star Wars gaming. Look at his, he lives at a Dave and Buster's that's out in Chino. That's where he lives.
Right there.
Yeah. Kim McAllister for president in 2028. I'd go for that.
No,
I'd be happy.
No.
Yeah, I'd be very happy with Kim as president. Not a problem.
I do think we should make a mom president. I would like to see a mom president.
I would love to see a woman run this country.
Mm-hmm.
I really would. But I used to think that, I'd rather have any woman over man. But then people like Marjorie Taylor Greene started showing up, and Lauren Boebert. And I realized, wait a minute. I mean, maybe giving too much credit too.
No.
Yeah. All right. I have to flip all the cards and call a halt to things. I don't want to do it, but I have to. But I will tell you that tomorrow, John Rothman joins. If you want to tune in for a good, solid argument, John and I run around the schoolyard. We will discuss what's going on. We'll also get a sense for what's happening. And Albert tomorrow, the commish, will update us on March Madness as we are in the Elite Eight part of March Madness. Thanks, Tony, for rallying a bunch of pictures and stuff today, man. I noticed it, and you really did hustle. I really appreciate that. And Kim, thank you for hustling. Kim, late to the party, but when she got here, she brought it. And and
I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see.
I still need to see those pictures, exactly. The After Party Live is next.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
On the After Party Live channel, and we'll see you tomorrow with Rothman and...
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Belinda Weymouth will be here, too, with us, The Planet Stupid. Anthony Davis later this week from the Midas Touch Network. A lot planned. Big week. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye.